Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Tuesday, the 22nd of December, 2015. This is episode 160, Christmas Whirlwind. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. I didn't record yesterday because I was just... we had two family parties over the weekend, and I think in all we were probably driving for about 10 hours over 2 days, which is a lot for me. Being in the car makes me tired, and it was very sunny both days, and I get sunsick, so I just needed yesterday as a recovery day. And plus, family parties, extreme introvert, so...
That was weird.
And I worked both days after the parties. So yesterday, I didn't work. I just took the day off, hung out with my kids, did some crafting. One moment. Yes, Gabriel?
I actually did what?
You actually did what?
I actually was doing this.
I know, you're doing a good job at spinning. I think you need to move it to the fifth hook.
Fifth hook?
Mm-hmm. So Gabriel's currently spinning on the wheel right now, next to me, which is cool. He and Steve went and saw the new Star Wars movie last night, and Gabriel, did you like the movie you saw last night?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part?
The whole thing.
So Star Wars is 7-year-old approved. I don't plan on seeing it in theaters. So, yeah, that's what that is. I mean, Star Wars is cool and all, but I'm not obsessed with it. I hear that this one redeems the franchise, though, after the last three, the first three, whatever, the prequel movies. This is more in line with the original movies, is what I've heard. Anyway, Finisher Frog Craft Along. So the winner last week, again, wanted to pay it forward, so we have a new winner this week, and the winner is post number 84, Ellen McCall. Linda, there is $11.50 left in the bank, so if you want to let me know patterns or ebook up to that amount, I will get that to you as quickly as possible. I love that you guys are paying it forward so much. It just makes my heart happy. But Linda, don't feel obligated to not use that whole 11 if there's something that you want for it. The other thing going on is the ending and mending, which I don't even know if you guys are participating in because I've barely been on Ravelry this week. I think everyone understands it's a very busy time of year. But I personally wove in ends on some hats, and I wove in ends on 2 pairs of socks, and I fixed a reusable shopping bag. Ends got woven in on one other project, but not by me. I gave Becca her mittens and I said, "Hi, these are for you. You have to weave in your own ends." She was like, "Fine." She tried them on and she was like, "These are great. Do you think there could be a button?" And I said, "Why, yes, there can be. I will tell you how to do it." So I made her sew her own button on her mittens and make the button loop. Whatever, it's good for her. It is good for other people who are not crafty to learn how to do these things. She is very crafty. She makes weapons for, what is it? It's kind of LARPing-ish. I guess some of the events are actual, like, LARPing, but anyway, they get together, they stage battles, they fight each other with these foam weapons, and Becca makes them. So it's good for her to do buttons and things. She already knew how to sew on a button. There's no way that we could have been friends this long without her knowing how to sew on her own button. But I taught her how to make a button loop, which was really easy because we just used a loop of yarn at the ends. She wanted it not to keep this part closed, but a button to hold the flap open when she needed it. So I showed her how to do that. I do have more plans for ending and mending, though. I have less ends to weave in than I thought I did, which is exciting. I hope your gifts are getting close to finished. And I will have a better update at the end of the year, I'm sure. I don't know, I feel like this month has gone for me. How about for you? Not in a bad way, just, it's very hectic. I have some finished objects. I'm super excited about my finished objects. So the first one is this gorgeous Leading Men Fiber Arts Organic Polworth, and it is 2-ply. I was almost finished with the singles last week, and I finished it that night and then let it rest, and then I wound it off onto my ball winder, which is behind my head right now and you can't see it. And then I 2-plied it from the inside and outside so I could use up all of the fiber. And you can see right here, that's the end where the two pieces met, because that's the very, very middle of the yarn. I have no idea on yardage.
What?
I have no idea how long it took me to ply because I wasn't timing it, and then there were those 2 days where I didn't even ply at all. So yesterday I plied a lot of it because I really wanted it to be finished, and at the beginning of the day I was like, there's no way this is happening, and then around evening time I just had a very little bit. I was like, I can do this, I can finish this. So I finished plying at about 8 o'clock last night, and it is a little after 11 this morning, so I'm going to let it sit on here just a little bit longer, probably through uploading this into editing software, and then I'm going to wind it off onto a Niddy Noddy and see what it is. You'll probably see it again next week with yardage tallies and stuff so that you can know what's going on. Yes.
I love you.
I love you too. Are you finished spinning?
Well,
You want to take a break?
that's messing me up.
You want to take a break?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I finished is something that I hadn't even started last week. Do you recall how I said I wasn't making anything for Steve's brother? Well, on Wednesday, I want to say, maybe Thursday, I don't know, it was late in the week, I was talking to Steve about if we should get Ben anything, because he was like, well, we didn't get anything for anyone else. I was like, I made something for everybody else except Ben. Well, I was making something for his mom. And he was like, oh, you should just make Ben a hat. It'll only take you like an hour. So I gave him a dirty look, and then I was like, fine, I'll make him a hat. And I came upstairs, and I had, you remember when I made that woodland wolf cowl? It was out of Lion Brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick. Well, I had 2 half skeins of 2 different colors, and then a larger leftover skein of another color, but I decided to go with the 2 half skeins. So I used the charcoal colorway and the gray marble colorway to make the Simply Nestled hat by Ellen Suzanne. And it took me, 2 days. I cast on one day because I hate casting on. And I hardly count that as starting a project unless it's for a knit along. If it's for a knit along, I don't cast on until the thing is supposed to start. But if I only cast on, I don't usually count that as the start date on my project page unless it's like a 300 stitch cast on or something, because I cast it on and then I set it aside. I hate casting on. So I knit it in pretty much 2 days. I did the charcoal portion, which is the brim part, and then I did the marble portion. And they're 2 different textures. It's meant to be worn as a beanie or as a slouchy. And I have a little bit left of the charcoal, and then I switched over to the marble, and I almost ran out of marble. I was getting close to the end length that they called for, and I was like, I don't know if I have enough to do the decreases. So I omitted any round that was knit straight, so I just decreased every round, and I think it turned out fine. You can't tell by looking at it. It doesn't look overly bunched. And then I still ended up running out of the gray marble. So I had enough to get to the final round, but I didn't have enough of a tail to go through the loops and cinch it shut. So it's actually cinched shut with the charcoal and then the ends woven in. And I couldn't even weave in the gray marble, and I had to like sew through it a couple times with the charcoal to keep it anchored. But it went over really well. Ben was excited-ish. I mean, Ben doesn't get excited. He was excited over his some video game thing. That's what he was excited over. But he was like, oh, this is perfect. I only have one hat. It's getting kind of worn. And then when it gets dirty, I have no hat to wear when it's cold, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, good. I'm glad you like it. And it's machine washable. So enjoy that. So that was good. And I used size 13 and 15 for the hat. The first portion is 13s and then the top portion is 15s. It's a free pattern. I basically went into Ravelry and I was looking for either knit or crochet, something that looked fast, looked nice, and looked masculine in the weight of yarn that I had. And that's what I came up with. So yay, success. And that's all I finished. So you might notice that I didn't finish the blanket. So it's still with me, but I was working on it at family Christmas because, you know, I brought my hand knit hats and stuff to give to people, and I was still working on this. So I was like, well, you know, I don't wrap my presents. I just hand them to people. So I was like, well, this is kind of like wrapping a present and giving it with the needles still in it. I was working on it and we were winding down. The kids were opening the last of the presents, and I leaned over to Diana and I said, and this is for you, but it's not finished yet. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, because it had been sitting on the couch and she was like, I kept looking at it and I love that color. And I was going to tell you that I thought it was so pretty. And I was like, well, it will be going to you when it's finished. This is where I am. So this is where I was last week. And it doesn't look like a lot of progress, but it's worked in the round. So that is all the way around has gotten that much bigger. And I haven't been working on it as hard as I could have been, especially after I knew I wasn't going to finish it on time. But it's getting big-ish. So here to here. I talked to her at the party and she said she would rather have a throw blanket than a bed blanket, so smaller than I was planning to do, which is nice. The yarn that I'm using for this is Caron Simply Soft in the autumn red color, and I'm using size J crochet hook, which if I started on a K, it's still fine because you can't even tell, especially because I switched stitch patterns from single crochet to half double crochet. I'm still considering going to double crochet on the outside, but I haven't decided yet. We'll see how it looks when I get to 15 or 20 rounds of half double crochet. I'll decide then. I also started a project because on Wednesday, I was like, oh, you know, it would be a great teacher present because I didn't have one. I should make them little ornaments because it doesn't take up that much space and I can make it out of stuff that I have. So we made jointly these little snowmen. The circles are crocheted using Premier Serenity Chunky in, I don't remember what colorway. The hats are crocheted using the leftovers of Lion brand Wool Ease Chunky. in gray, or yeah, the chunky, leftover from the mittens. And then these beads are beads that I have in my stash because I have a ton of these plastic pony beads from college, and my mom made a blanket where she bought a whole bunch of beads in mixed packages because she needed one color out of them and she couldn't just buy packages of that one color. So I have a whole bunch of beads. So we regularly break out the bead thing and make bracelets and necklaces and stuff. Mara helps me sew the beads on the face. So I put the needle where it needs to go and she pulls it out. And then Gabriel is sewing up the back on the ones for his teacher and bus driver. I wrote Gabriel and then 2015 under, but these are not for them. He is sewing on this felt piece because the backs are not super attractive. So I did have to buy felt. I don't keep felt on hand, hardly ever use it. So now I have a quarter of a sheet of white felt. Because I was like, oh, this will make cute teacher gifts. And that would have been fine if I was just making 2, right? And I was like, oh, I kind of want one for my Christmas tree because we have 2 Christmas trees. We have one downstairs for the commercial ornaments, and then we have one upstairs that has all of my handmade ornaments that I've gotten from other people. And I made one last year, a little, I actually hung it on my doorknob outside, but this year I just put it on my tree. And it is a little Christmas wreath. So now I'm going to have a snowman. And I was like, you know who else would really like these? All the grandmas. So about every half hour, I was doubling what I wanted to do. But I stopped. Like, I didn't decide I needed to make one for every neighbor and everything. First of all, I would run out of yarn. And second of all, that's crazy. So I only have a few more to make with the kids. And they're going pretty well. So I think they're super cute. And they're all different because they're all hand sewn on. And some of the hats are at jaunty angles and some of them are straight on. Usually they're at jaunty angles because, you know, that's just how it happens to go. And the hats don't all look the same because they're all crocheted very quickly. The hats are 12 stitches because I just needed something really, really quick and easy. So they're, you know, depending on how much I was rushing at that particular hat, because the elves left them for Gabriel to work on. And I didn't have enough when he was getting off the bus. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 10 minutes until the bus. I need to make 3 more of these. So 3 of them look a little crazy. But it's fine. They're handmade Christmas ornaments. They're supposed to look handmade. I won't be showing those next week as a finished object because they're kind of finished objects. I mean, this will take another 30 seconds and then it's finished. But I'm making a whole bunch and they're all going away except for one. So consider that a work in progress and a finished object this week. I also did some plying on jaws. You can see it over my head. I will insert a picture so you can see progress. I am pretty sure I can finish it by the new year. And I would really like to finish it this week so that I can use Lorraine's Nitty Nutty to wind it off so it can be super pretty. But that means I'll actually have to really work on it, which is fine because I just finished this purple. So I don't have that to work on anymore. And Gabriel is using my wheel this week. He's been asking me for almost a month if he could spin on the wheel, but he asks on weeknights and usually when I work, and I don't want him to be using it without my supervision just in case something goes wrong. I don't want to be like, what did you do? Because he accidentally broke something and he can't explain what he did. It's not like he would break it, but you know, if something was off and I wasn't here to supervise, then I wouldn't know what had happened because he can explain things, but you know how 7-year-olds explain things. Maybe you don't, but it's not always very clear. And the advent calendar is going so well. He's really, really excited about it still. the elves have continued to put the numbers on every day and leave notes from Santa. The ornaments are almost all on. There's just a little bit of the star on top that needs to be sewn down, and that one is not a pocket. That's just a decoration. And then yesterday the elves pinned a tree skirt on, so that needs to be sewn down. And then the tree itself is finished, and then maybe the elves will start quilting it, but maybe they'll wait until after Christmas because it's only 3 days away. And that will be a little less easy to do. Yeah, it's going over really, really well. And I am pretty excited about that. What else? Modular projects. I'm counting 8 squares, 8 hexapuffs this week. This one is just cast on and the first half of the first round, but it will be finished while I'm editing, and I'm counting this as the 8th. It will be a celebratory one because I have two finished objects this week. I'm not caught up on celebratory, but I am caught up from the point where I decided that I needed to catch up. I think there are still about 30 celebratory hexapuffs that I have to make according to my journal, but not since the time where I was like, I need to make all of these up, and then made hexapuffs some weeks and not other weeks. So this week I only made 2. And as for the 2 finished objects, well, I made 1, but there are going to be 2. This is going to be one of those styles where it's one half is stockinette and the other half is reverse stockinette. This is the other one, so it's got some ridges, and then I used that same yarn to make 3 other hexapuffs. This is yarn that I got from Haley, and I used in my temperature thigh highs as not the hottest color, but the second hottest color. Then this is Premier Serenity Sock, Sugar and Spice colorway, maybe? That sound right? Purple Spice, maybe? I think it's Purple Spice that I'm saying. And I've made a few different pairs of socks out of that. Definitely 2 different pairs for my mom and maybe a child-sized pair, but I can't remember for sure. This is 3 different yarns. This yarn is Lion Brand Sock Ease in the Rock Candy colorway. And then these 2 yarns, I don't know what the middle one is. That was from someone else. And then this one down here is Premier Serenity Sock in charcoal. I just had a little scrappy bit to add there. And then this is yarn from Haley, and I used this in my temperature. I think it was from Haley. I might be wrong. It was a really long time ago, like 3 years ago, that I got this particular color. I use this as the hottest color in my temperature thigh highs. And the reason why I'm counting this as the 8th one is because I really wanted to do, I finished the 7th hexapuff last night, and I was like, I really want to add a second square onto my mitered square blanket. So that means I need to make an 8th puff. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do the square and then I'll start the puff. It'll be fine. Well, I did the square and I started the puff, and then I was like, oh, I'm tired. So I didn't finish the 8th puff, but I will. When I'm editing, it will count as one of this week's. It won't count towards next week's quota. So I did 2 squares. I'm up to 9 on my blanket. This is yarn from Christina. She sent me 2 skeins, and this is the first one. 2 skeins for this blanket in particular. So this is the first one. It is blue and lovely. And then this is the yarn that I used to make Josh's Christmas socks. It is Nerd Girl Yarns, the 80/20 merino nylon blend in Back from Earth colorway. And it's all sorts of pretty colors, but it does have blue in there, so it counts as blue and green. I love how this is turning out. This is going to be such an awesome blanket. I'm so excited for it. What else? One more modular project. That's what else. Counting this is done. I just need to put on the black border. The green's not even attached anymore. So border and then done. This is the, I can see it. It's the, I just finished the Aramis socks out of this. I can see the tag. It's trail sock in the forest colorway, but who dyes it? I don't know. Like, I can see it in my head. It's not on my desk. I can't see it. That brings me up to 53 barn raising squares, 9 mitered squares, and 427 hexapuffs. On to new things. I have a few that I got for Christmas that I want to show you. Only one is knitting related, so I'll do knitting related first and also say that I don't have any reading this week. I've been reading the same things but don't have anything to talk about. Anyway, I received a Treasury of Knitting Patterns by Barbara G. Walker, and I am super excited about that. I pulled it out and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And everyone was like, what'd you get? I was like, nothing that would be exciting for anybody but me. So I can show you, I can hold it up. And they were like, oh, that's cool. I was like, it's actually really cool because no one else there knits. But this has all sorts of stuff in here. I haven't even really looked through it. I just got excited and loved it. But let's see. Chapter 1 is introduction. 2 is simple knit purl combinations. 3 is ribbings. 4 is color change patterns. 5 is slip stitch patterns. 6 twist stitch patterns. 7 fancy texture patterns. 8 patterns made with yarn over stitches. 9 eyelet patterns. 10 lace. 11 cables. And 12 cable stitch patterns. I'm super excited to look through this. I haven't been able to get a hold of any of these through the library. They don't have anything by Barbara Walker, which is unfortunate. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then I also received, these are both from Diana, I also received an adult coloring book. Oh, I'm so excited. Every week when I go to knitting group for the past, I don't know, season, they have had adult coloring books on display right in the vestibule when you walk into Barnes & Noble. And I really, really wanted one, but I didn't get one because I was like, no, I don't need a coloring book. Like, I need another hobby, really. But she got one, and I have colored 2 pages so far. So I'm just going to show you this one. I colored that actually at the second family Christmas party because introvert, and I was still social. I still talked to people. I just then retreated to my corner with my colored pencils. And then I did this one yesterday. And I really, really enjoy coloring. I love it. I have a suggestion. If you like coloring, but you're like, don't love how your things are turning out, you don't have to go with this. But a good idea for design, like color-wise, if you're going to be coloring, you can use every color of pencil that you have. I have a pack of 50. So I could use all 50 colors on one picture. And that would be fine, but especially in something where I'm not varying for shading purposes, I usually go with 6 to 7 colors. So I'll show you my elephant. One of my 6 is the yellow background color, and I only used it on the background to make everything else pop. And then I have blue, green, and purple, which are all very similar value-wise. The 3 that I picked in particular, I picked a blue, green, and purple that were all similar value-wise. And then a red as an accent color, and then a gold, which is similar to the green, but pops enough, I think, from the other colors. So a background color, a pop color, a sort of pop color, and then 3 colors that blend together. It just gives a nice overall visual thing. It gives the 3 that are similar, give your eyes places to rest in between the pops of color. This is all stuff that I learned in my design classes in college, so pass that on to you. So hopefully if you're coloring and you're not loving how your things are coming out, that'll help a little. I don't plan on coloring a page a day, but the last thing that I received was, or that I'm going to show you, was from Steve's sister. She works at Starbucks, and so she supplies me with tea at Christmas time. Last year she got me this gorgeous mug that my children immediately chipped. I think that same day. They immediately chipped it. So anyway, she got me some awesome things. And something that I don't think is so awesome, but would be fine for other people. So the not awesome is this Tivana Oprah chai. And it smells really nice. It smells very Christmassy, which translates basically to cinnamony with other things. And while I enjoy the smell of cinnamon, I do not enjoy cinnamon flavored things for the most part. There are a couple exceptions. We make wreath cookies, my mom does, they're like cornflakes. It's basically making Rice Krispie treats, but with cornflakes instead of Rice Krispie. And you food color them green, and then you put cinnamon candies on top, the little red hot things. And I like the cinnamon in that. And I like cinnamon as a small accent flavor, but not as an overall flavor. And in this, it's the overall flavor. So I drank it over the whole day yesterday, just to make sure it wasn't like the first cup I was like, oh. And I was like, well, maybe it'll grow on me. No, I had three different of these, and I think this is 16 ounces. Let's see. Yeah, it's 16 ounces. It says on the bottom. So I tried it 3 different times, and I just didn't like it. But luckily, Steve really likes cinnamon, so I will just relegate this to his corner of the tea area, which is nice because now he has fancy-ish tea. And I told him he could use my second present to make it. I didn't clean it out from yesterday because I'm a gross, whatever. This is the Tivana tea in, let's see, the perfect tea maker. So this is what it is. And what you do is you put your tea in it in the bottom, and then you pour hot water over it, and you let it steep for however long it's supposed to steep. And it's on this coaster while you do that, just in case there's dripping or whatever. And then this bottom part right here is pressure sensitive, so you put it on top of your mug, and it's like when you have a coffee pot that has a pressure release thing so that you can pour a cup of coffee while you're brewing and it'll stop dripping when you pull the pot off. Well, that's how this works. The tea comes down through the bottom, and then this holds 16 ounces of water. So I just poured out the entire thing into my mug yesterday. But when I'm using 8-ounce mugs of water, it will make 2 different cups worth. And so I can pour out the first half, set the rest back on the coaster, and then go back for the second half after, and it'll still be in there. I don't know how often I'll do that because I don't actually like my today. So pretty excited about that. And maybe I'll tell you if I like it or not in the editing. We'll see. I almost forgot to tell you one of the more exciting parts. Okay, so the Christmas parties are all exciting, but this part was like nerdy exciting. So we do a white elephant gift exchange at the big family party every year. And it's supposed to be like stuff you find around your house that you're not using, or up to $5 of whatever. Well, I had made a market bag forever ago for a swap on Ravelry, and the person fell off the face of the planet. I seem to be lucky like that. Anyway, so I had this market bag sitting around, and I had some dish scrubbies that I had made that I hadn't pulled out of the drawer yet, and I was like, well, I'll throw those in together, and a bar of handmade soap, because I have a lot of bars of handmade soap. And I was like, okay, yeah, that'll work. Well, that gift, someone stole something from Steve, and they gave Steve our gift, and I was like, no, don't open that. That's from us. And nobody was listening until Steve tore the paper, and I was like, seriously? And he opened it, and he was like, hey, you just got one of these. I said, yeah, I know. It was the box for the tea thing. I was like, that's not what's in the box. You have to open the box. I needed a box this morning. And he was like, oh, this is from us. And the guy who gave it to him was like, oh, this is from you guys? And I was like, yeah, I said that 3 times when you guys were walking over here, but whatever. Anyway, it was stolen 3 different times, the market bag and just scrubbies. So that was kind of cool. I was pretty excited about it. So I have to go see what children are doing outside. But I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. I hope that you're having a really good holiday season. If you celebrate the holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I'm pretty sure that has been over for a little bit now, because I haven't seen any Hanukkah pictures on my Instagram feed. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but since Hanukkah moves, I sometimes lose track of when it is. Is it Happy Kwanzaa? Happy Solstice? All the good things. And if you don't celebrate any of that, I hope you're enjoying winter, whether you're in the super hot or the super cold. I'm waiting for snow, but that's just me. Anyway, I'll see you next week. Bye.